Welcome to Law and Society. Please subscribe. And let's talk about the obvious that stares us in the face, which is Donald Trump is not Ukraine's friend. We need to come to terms with that. Zelensky needs to come to terms with that. There was a 2 hour talk between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, and they talked about the conditions of what they would want. And Russia does not want Ukraine to have any intel or army. It does not want it to rearm or mobilize. Wants there to be a stop to attacks on energy infrastructure. And while saying that, Russia keeps on attacking Ukraine cities. So there's no consistency. It's an entirely hypocritical charade that's going on here, where we see that Putin doesn't want peace. And then there was a 1 hour talk with Zelensky. I guess the saving grace is that after talking with Putin, Donald Trump didn't just accept the terms of the agreement without Ukraine saying so. That's thank God for that. But when I say that Donald is not Ukraine's friend, I say it as an American and with a heavy heart, because America is not going to be able to help Ukraine in any constructive way unless Ukraine decides that ceding territory, vast amounts of it that Russia claims, and essentially bowing down to all of Russia's demands and surrendering and sort of running away with what little it can get. The U.S. can recent development was that the U.S. has stopped tracking Ukrainian children who have been kidnapped by Russia. That's not pro-Ukraine. They're having peace talks in Saudi Arabia or wherever without Ukraine at the table. That's not pro-Ukraine. Berating Zelensky and talking down to him while praising Putin. Remember when he called Putin savvy during the beginning of the Russian invasion? And not saying one bad word about Putin is not pro-Ukraine. Elon Musk threatening that he has the power to stop Starlink and everything would go black for Ukraine, and then saying that he would never do that. That posturing and that sort of, it's sort of a blackmail, a veiled blackmail, is not pro-Ukraine. Stopping aid and intel and then starting again like Donald Trump did, that's not pro-Ukraine. These things are not pro-Ukraine. So when the United States goes into a negotiating room with Ukraine, it is advocating on behalf of Russia. But when the United States goes into a room with Russia, it's not advocating for Ukraine. It's advocating for how Russia can get everything they want and the United States can get whatever mineral rights or whatever it is that they want out of that deal, and then divvy up and give Ukrainian people back a large slice of what their country was before Crimea was annexed. And that's simply not a negotiation. That's blackmailing to surrender. So I would really, if I could ever talk to Vladimir Zelensky, I would first off say thank you, hats off to you. You are the hero that democracy needs. And then I would request him to stop pandering to Donald Trump, bowing down to him, and forging a real partnership with Europe, where even far-right leaders have stood up for Ukraine, from Prime Minister Meloni to is it President? No, I think it's Prime Minister of Italy, or Marine Le Pen, who is the leader of the far right in France. They have all supported Ukraine. So go with Europe. Yeah, if Donald Trump's administration wants to help in any way, they can send aid, and that's a surplus. But don't rely on my government right now, because it has been hijacked by Donald Trump and his oligarchs, and by Putin, because the United States under the Trump administration is not neutral in a position to negotiate on behalf of Ukraine to Russia. It can only talk about Russian interests to Ukraine. And we are not neutral. And Donald is not Ukraine's friend. With that said, everybody in Ukraine, please stay safe. Slava Ukraine. And do take care. Like and subscribe, everybody.